put in the work.
No, what did you do to get in the bed? What did you spend? I mean, tell me about the whole plan. You complaining about, I gotta go here, I gotta go there. Well, what did you have to do to get it?
To get what? In the pants.
All right. What'd you do there?
I ain't do nothing.
Oh, you didn't do nothing?
No, she just, she was like, yo, what's up? I'm like, what's up?
And you're complaining about the circumstance as it is today.
But see, now I gotta go backtrack it. The events that happened while we was together until now.
Oh, y'all were together?
We were together.
Y'all were together?
We were together.
But she just walked up to you, what's up, boo? You look good, nice gray sweater. Like, can we get that thing on?
Oh no, she told my cousin she wanna.
And you just did, and that's how you went about.
And I went to her house. Was like, yo, what's up?
Right.
And then like, I ain't gonna lie, like 2 days later,
But so in between those 2 days, you did nothing.
Oh no, I ain't see it.
You ain't see it. So when y'all hooked up, y'all just went to bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm being honest.
I just want to make sure we're clear because you need to look at that when you're engaging her. Okay, we'll come to that part. So 2 weeks ago, y'all remember this list? I took a picture of it, so couldn't nobody say I don't remember. This is all the dialogue we had on power and control. Remember? Baby was coming back to you. Now only one person mentioned anything about prayer. When we talk about power and control, I want you to look at all the stuff here. Prayer is mentioned. Now let's look at spiritual principles. Y'all know what spiritual principles are?
No.
No, we're going to help you out. What's patience? Come on, jump in. What is patience? Is patience something that would be considered a spiritual principle?
It's a virtue.
Okay. Prayer. What else on this list would be considered a spiritual principle? Knowledge. Okay, what else?
Persuasion. Can we say leverage?
Hold on.
Time.
Persuasion. Is persuasion spiritual?
Persuasion, no.
I say no.
You say no?
No.
He says yes. Okay, so mark it off. What else?
Time.
Time. Because time is aligning with for patience.
Patience.
Okay, time is significant too as well.
Well,
What else?
persuasion is more like influence.
Okay, but we gonna let him define that because he's gonna get a turn because y'all gonna jump all over him when we get to that part. Anything else here? So let's look at, we put 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, about 18 things up here. And out of 18 things, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Because here we're talking about power and control. Right? And one of the things that I pointed out was thinking errors. And how when we look at faith is centered where? In the heart.
Right.
Because it's not in your thinking. And I also referenced the fact that for those of you who believe and follow whatever you follow in terms of religion, that the revelations were placed upon the heart, not in the mind, because the mind can be compromised. Right? So as you age and as you continue to go through life and get traumatized by certain situations, what happens is the mind gets foggy because it gets clouded with all this stuff that's going on, and you try to find a way to protect yourself. And the body does it automatically. But then your thinking begins to conjure up things to make you feel like you are protected. So your conduct changes. Right? So when we look at all the things that we put here, these are errors in thinking. Outside of the spiritual principles. Why? Because the spiritual principles are things that should be the foundation of how we react to conflict. But obviously we're having some serious problems here. Because when I asked for the responses, look at what I got.
What was the question?
The question what we were talking about was, we identified power first. Then we identified control. And looking at this whole picture here, the reason we're not finding resolution and resolve in a lot of the conflicts that we're having is because of this content that we showed here. This is our content. This is your toolbox, for instance, to resolve conflict. Power and control. Nobody said anything that was really in the sense of any kind of spiritual condition. If you enter into a conflict, right? We'll go with the first one. Write this down. You already wrote this first one down. Make every moment a teach you about me moment instead of tell you about you moment, right? There's principles in there. What's the principle in that statement? If I'm telling you about me, I'm being open-minded. Right? What else am I being? I'm being understanding. What else am I being? If I'm telling you about me.
I just said be true, being truthful.
Being truthful.
Objective.
Objective. Things that really show us where our power and control lies. That's what objectivity is, like power and being objective, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Yes?
Right.
If we look at number 2, since y'all already ingrained number 1, approach every conversation what Joel was talking about with a win-win perspective, as opposed to a win-lose perspective. Why does somebody have to lose? Why can't you both win? Why? Why don't, let's just use I statements. Why don't you want to be wrong?
I'm always getting my way.
Why? You didn't answer the question.
Sometimes you feel as though you might have to make a point. Sometimes I may feel as though I have to make a point.
Why do you feel as though you have to make a point?
Maybe because of my manhood. My personality, maybe.
What does manhood have to do with principles? Being right or wrong?
Well, my personality. Maybe.
Okay. Your personality?
Yeah.
I want you to know that I'm just as good of a parent as you. So every now and then I want you to know sometimes you're wrong and I'm right. I want you to know I'm just as good as you. I'm just as smart as you. For whatever it is, I'm just as much as you are.
Anybody else agree with what he just said?
I agree.
Why do you agree?
Because I could come from, well, I talking this thing. Like my child's mother, she's a new mother, and I'm a new father. So when it comes to the other making a decision for our son, she thinks she's always right, but because she thinks I'm dumb or whatever. But I yet to tell her like I'm a new father, just like you're a new mother. I have to explain. It's like I don't like talking to her sometimes because I always got to explain myself, and I hate explaining myself.
Do you have to explain yourself, or do you choose to explain yourself? What just Joel just said.
I have to.
Why?
Because she's not going to get where I'm coming from unless I explain myself.
But do you have to explain yourself by trampling on her? But you do.
Sometimes.
Why?
She makes me angry.
How does she make you angry?
By acting like a child when she's a mother.
You're trampling on her again. You're telling her she's acting like a child. How do you feel if she said to you, you're acting like a little boy?
Bounce off.
It bounce off. Does it bounce off of you? You talk about challenges manhood. No, yes or no.
Yeah, it does bother me. Yeah.
Right, bother you. See, and what Joel said, see, you gotta understand, what we're talking about here is, we are talking about manhood. We are talking about the fact that I think that I'm just as good as you. I know how to change a diaper. Why can't I change it the way I change it? Why do I have to change it the way she changes it? Is it difficult to say, okay, well, maybe this is a good, effective way to change a diaper? I'll go with it. I can put the fire out. But why do I keep putting gasoline on the fire?
Well, manhood and fatherhood also can be humility, be humble. Why don't we learn how to practice those words?
That's in there too. The question is, why don't we? I'm going to take your question. Why don't we practice humility? Why don't we be humble?
Because of our environment and how we were raised by some structure of families. Because we didn't know how to be humble. We don't know how to be submissive.
and still
I.
that. Say that again?
I statements.
I did not know how to be heard. I did not know how to not raise my voice. And that's something that I have to relearn all over again.
Anybody else?
Pride. Pride was up too high. My pride was up too high.
It's important that we use I statements. So I'm going to always redirect you to say I, because it's always easy to talk about the other person. You do that in your engagement with her. And you'll probably find a pattern of doing the same thing with others. So it's important that we understand what humility looks like. Defining words, using the dictionary. Because each word also has a core word. Some words act as adjectives, verbs, nouns. You have to know that. And remember we did the exercise last week when I asked you about, I gave you the word, and everybody had different thing on the word. I gave you the word sex, I gave you the word heat, and we all had different perspectives, remember? You follow me?
I wasn't here.
Okay, well you were here. You should have been here, you missed it. But if we're talking about a win, what does a win? Now let's go with no, Reese. Wasn't Reese the one that came up with the that situation and
Oh yeah, the text message.
yeah, the text message. Okay, we're going to use that as an example. Because remember I put the ABCs thing, okay? A win-win situation. What would have really been a win-win situation? A win-win situation with that engagement, that interaction between the two.
Perfectly honest, for me, I can't think of one.
Why not? You really can.
Reese, what's her name again?
Kristen.
Crystal?
Kristen.
What was it? Why did you tell me about the broken jacket?
No, she texted me, it would be decent of you to let me know that you broke her jacket. You know, broke the zipper on her jacket. And then she said, you can also tell me what happened to her wrist, like when she hurt herself.
Now, if you want to look at it, this is the activating event. Antecedent. This is the activating event, right? This is what took place. She sent you a text message, right? What we have to look at this point is, what did you do? In a brief part of that in your response.
What was your reply?
Oh, wasn't brief, but my reply was.
Don't say all your reply. I got kids in it.
My reply was, why you could at least have the decency to tell me that, you know, what doctor she go to, because I asked her, you know, what's her doctor and, you know, where's it located, and she hasn't responded to my text. So that's how I started off, and then you know, I went and answered the rest of the question.
Well, but we're gonna go there, right? Okay, now, go ahead.
Just real quick, this is just, and I apologize for putting you in the spot. He started.
I don't apologize.
That's why I'm here, man.
That's why all of us are here, brother, not just you. That's why all of us are here.
Daughter, son, married, not married, relationship, not relationship. Pretty much everybody in here is going to go through this situation. So our goal for you in this conversation is to get you to a point where this situation is better. I would like to see, I don't know how it's about to go, but I would like to see Chris end up saying something like, well, have a nice day. And not sarcastically, and not with a sign that, you know, or, I mean, where would you like this to see this end? And I think we need to talk about the ending too. So, Reese, what would you, what is this?
Based on a win-win perspective.
I mean, she the devil incarnated, so I can't think of wow to say about her, man. I mean, seriously.
So, well, let's start there. Let's start there. Because in order for us to get to the win-win, right, we have to first deal with that thinking.
Oh, we don't have that
I mean,
Well, no, we're going to shorten the time, but the first thing you have to do is you have to acknowledge that your thinking has to be changed.
oh, I can admit that.
And but that's where it starts. Because again, it goes back to being objective. Right? That's the first place it begins. It begins with being objective.
Now, I understand the purpose is to combat how we respond to negativity. But isn't it in some cases the truth that some people are just mean, some people are just bitter, some people are just vindictive? Isn't that the case, I mean, to the point where we can't necessarily just say, well, we got to stop looking at them like this when that actually is who they are?
But that's not your right. Your right is not to label a person. That's the thing that we go back, again, it's going back to power and control. We don't have the right to label people.
Not even justified.
We don't have the right to label people. As soon as I label a person, that means that has changed my course of action. Because this is all I see is, okay, you got this label on your head, here comes the devil. What does that do for you when you see the devil coming?
It changes your mood.
It changes your mood.
Definitely changes your conversation.
It changes your conversation. It changes you. See, it's not about that other person. We keep making all of our engagement about the other person. It's not about them. This is another person coming to me with a set of issues. I have a set of issues. How dare I put a label on somebody else? Because now you both have labels on one another. How do you think that's going to go? So this is about us changing our own condition and being able to address the situation without those barriers. That's a barrier between you and a win-win circumstance where we'll never get here. We'll never get here. And some of you probably see right now for yourselves, you've been in that same battle, that same combat for years.
But can I add though,
Sure.
when because I spoke to Brother Joe as far as the repercussions of what could she do if I kept
He
my...
done threw you in the mix now.
No, I'm just saying, I asked his advice about
Is there a bus coming right
no, if I kept my daughter longer than the custody. I mean, we didn't have a custody order, so I was like, well, would it affect me if we when we go to court? And he basically said there's no custody, so I kept her longer. And she called my phone, cursed me out, and I just said, look, my daughter's with me, she's safe, have a nice night. She scratched my mom's car up. I mean, I can't prove it, but I mean, my mom, she don't bother nobody. My mom don't have no enemies. Her whole block, they all get along with each other. I mean, so that's why I'm like, I just realized, that's why I'm like, how can we come to a win-win situation? Because I just like, this is, if you don't, like, it's like if you don't fight her, at some point, she's gonna make you want to fight. Like, it's just like somebody punching you in the face, and you're just like, well, how long you want to sit there and take it?
Well, no. That's apples and oranges now.
Okay.
If somebody physically assaults you,
I mean, she damaging my mom's property now, and then
okay,
I live with my mom,
okay,
and then I gotta hear it.
What's the solution to her damaging your mother's car? There are laws, right?
Yeah, but
911 is there, right?
But we called 911.
Okay, what did 911 do?
They said, well, can you prove she did it? No.
Okay, it's a done deal. You want to keep dragging it out, they got room for you in Greaterford.
Okay.
I'm being real about this. I'm being real about this because we need to think about what it is we're doing. Because you go step to her trying to assault her, well, I'm her brother. I'm coming to see you. So you got a whole long laundry list of negativity, and who's going to take care of your child?
What I'm not about to stand here and do is falsify things and build you up to make you seem like she's not mean or she's not doing negative things. And I'm not about to stand up here and say that females don't piss us off constantly. I'm not about to do that.
That's right.
What I want to do is let you realize that you have a child together no matter what. You still have a kid together. And there's stressors in here that we haven't even talked about yet. The other thing is, I'm coming at her neck, she coming at my neck. And while we're going back and forth, our child, your son, and your daughter is starving. Or I can't stand the way our son looks like me. Like, there's some stuff that's happening in that house. Can you imagine getting off the phone with somebody you just totally hate right now? Then you got to feed their kid? We can't keep... Now we leaving our children with the devil, and the devil hates us, and but the devil has rights Monday through Thursday with the child we raising. We got to get to a better conversation. So I want her to be smoothed out. I want her to be, I guess, calm, or I want her to be all right. She's got to breastfeed. I mean, she's got stuff to do. I mean, with my seed. So I can't keep calling her big, because that makes my son half of big. Whatever you call her, that makes your kid half of that. That means your daughter's half devil. And I'm never going to say that. And I'm never going to admit that. Your daughter plays with Dora the Explorer dolls. I'm not going to say that. So somehow, some way, I got to switch this up with what I can control. And I can control the way you talk to me. You can get loud with me right now, and I can control it, because I can walk out of this room. Or I could be like, yo, brother, calm down. Or I could try to explain myself. I didn't mean to call you that. I apologize. I can apologize. I can teach my 3 sons that the 3 hardest words of a man to say are the same 3 words that totally change his life around. Yeah. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I apologize. Little stuff like that is stuff we hate saying. But that's the exact thing that turns our life around. You can't keep doing what you're doing. You can't keep dipping in this and cussing people out, and then you go to pick your son up, she's always late because she don't like you. You don't like her. She don't care what time she get there. She care when she get there for work. She don't care about you because you don't like her. I just want to be able to see with my power and my control, I can control what comes out of my mouth. I can control, like you said, how I look at you. I refuse to call you anything. This is that's my child's mother. These are my kids' mother. This is their mother. That's all I call you. Or either I call you by your first name, which is the name I was calling you when they was conceived. Whatever that. I ain't gonna keep calling you daddy. But whatever name, we gotta change up a little bit. So I can control what comes out of my mouth, and I can say something different. This is starting off bad. This is what we call yellow light. This is a yellow light statement, and it either goes, and after yellow, it either goes green or it can go red.
Now, because if you would see, your first response was here. If you'd have just responded to this, I had nothing to do with it breaking, I didn't know anything about it being broken, and give her an explanation for the arm or whatever that was, you know, this is what happened, and kept it moving, right? You might not have been feeling so balled up about it, being offended by it, and she might not have been so balled up about it, because you don't know what happened on the other end. She might have hung up the phone with you, and like Joe was saying, your child is there. Your child's the first line of contact after she gets off the phone with you. And you know your child begins at some point to develop their own perspective of the situation and start hating you because their mother's sitting there crying. Every time you get off the phone, mommy's crying. Or mommy's yelling and screaming. Then she starts yelling and screaming at me. It's a trickle-down effect. So it would have been just easier to do something other than, and just take a minute and think about the response that you gave to this. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you just answer it? And how could you answer it? Because you're going to get more text messages. So what do you think the first solution to this dilemma is? Because you're going to be faced with another one of these dilemmas. What do you think the most effective way to deal with that? If you get a question asked by her, whether you agree or disagree with it.
Well,
go ahead.
Real quick, what happened here? And then I want to see if we can like collectively start.
No, she sent her little list of texts. I sent my text, and she just kept calling my mom's phone after that, and I didn't respond.
Okay. Did her text include names, or did her text include like what?
No.
Right after the statement, more
Decision?
accusations.
Yeah, I was in court, so you know.
Because this right here is an accusation, and we don't like being stepped to. They don't like being stepped to.
Yeah, that's why so I ain't like her text actually said, "Would you like to tell me what happened to the baby's wrist, and could you at least have the decency to let me know you broke her zipper?
All right.
The zipper needs to be replaced. The zipper needs to be replaced. The set is only 2 weeks old. I'll let you know how much it costs since you broke it."
But it began with, would you
like to
tell me? It's a different statement than why didn't you tell me? Would you like to tell me? It's an assumption in there.
Okay.
Right, but I'm asking you, I'm trying to be cordial. There's some effort that you have to read into that took place there,
Okay.
as opposed to why didn't you? Would you like to tell me? Yes, the accusation is there. The assumption is there. You can fix that. You can fix that. Get the zipper fixed. That's how, you know, listen. What, should I argue back and forth about a zipper?
Not what you say, it's how you say it.
Should I, but you know, so going back, this is where Joel wants to go here. We need to come up with some solutions for how that could have all been dealt with.
Her language is, you did it.
Yeah, that's what I took from it. Like, I read the text message as if she's speaking to me. And I know, like, you know, she don't, like, because I was supposed to get the baby Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. It was 9:30. I called her. I said, you know, where are you at? Screamed loud as hell. Don't call this number no more. It's icy outside. I'll get there when I get there. I looked at the phone and hung it up. She showed
What
up.
time is she supposed to be there?
She was supposed to be there at 9.
What time she get there?
Like quarter to 10.
Okay. So, are you okay? Everything all right? Just checking on you.
No, I mean, she banged on me. That's what she said. What she said.
But okay, but understand, you got to try to read differently. You said that's the way you looked at it as she was talking to you. Y'all talk to each other, confrontation.
We can't. I tried to have a decent.
But you see where you're not changing the thinking, that you read her messages, you read into.
Yeah.
Don't read into. Just
I try not to.
It's just words.
So I responded to, oh, go ahead.
I would say, like, how long you been in court for? Like, is this?
I filed in October.
Yeah, see, it's fresh. Like, don't you remember when it was fresh for me? I was going through all that, but now, like, I just kill all that with kindness. Like, if she send me something negative, I send her something nice. So, if it do get to the point where you gotta take it to court, the judge will see that she's sending you negative comments and you killing her all with nice comments. So, cause I mean, you remember I was hot going through. He was going through like a minute ago, but now like she can't touch it. Like I got stuff in court. Like as long as you know that you got your court stuff right, and she break it, there ain't nothing but a contempt. That's how you follow that up. Like you got what you got. She just mad because you got your court order. That's all.
But what you want to stay with is the solution that's there is positive responses.
But like you said, I feel like I'm losing. I mean, this is me. I feel like I'm losing control.
Okay.
If I bow down, I'm making her think that I'm a punk.
But who are you bowing down to? What is the goal here? The child.
You just said pride.
The child. The goal is the child.
Oh, the goal is
the focus is too much on the other person. The focus is the child. How would the child feel?
I respond.
Good.
Alright, so the focus is the child, right?
I'm talking to you right
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not being funny, but if the focus is the child, and I do what I do, so I can see my son, how is that bad?
You trying to say yams as far as seeing your child?
But wait a minute,
I got court order, Thomas.
But wait a minute.
But she don't respect it.
But wait a minute, but you slept with her. You slept with her and didn't even have any of those things. You just wanted to sleep with her. So we need to go back there.
That wasn't on my mind at the time.
You telling me during this act all you thinking about was I just can't wait to see my child.
Exactly. I love my son. Like, listen, when I went down there, listen, I had my son. She brought him late. So she said, all right, since I brought him late, you could bring him 2 hours later from when I bring him. I said, cool. Why you acting all nice now? In my head, I didn't say that to her, you know. So I had my time with my son. I gave my son to my mom half of the 2 hours, and then I went back down there to drop my son off. And she was like, oh, come in. I'm like, she said she needed to talk to me. I'm like, all right, well, let's talk. What you want to talk about? She want to talk about the court. She want to say, oh, I want to work around your work schedule so you can see your son. I'm like, yeah, now you want me to see my son? Man?
Let's write this down.
Right.
Let's get this notarized.
You know what I mean? I should have been thinking. See, that's why I don't belong here, man.
Because you were thinking.
Yeah, he was thinking.
No.
When she said, first of all, you were around a company of men, so what was she wearing when she said would you like to come in?
Oh, I was about to tell you. First, she was wearing something raggedy. But when she went upstairs, you know, and when she went upstairs to go see what Mom went, she came down in my wrinkle dress. Yeah, her mom upstairs.
Joe with the mom.
Is mom freaky too? I service cougars.
Y'all out of control.
Alright, so she comes down and she was like, "Come on, let's put our son to sleep." I'm like, I don't feel as comfortable, you know, we going through our problems. I hear you trying to fix the problem, but I'd rather see it and then work off of that. Then her mom called for my son. So she take my son up there, and I'm like, that's why I'm here, is to see my son. What are you doing?
If you're not careful, I think what happened is there was a time period that you were in control, and then eventually you end up losing control. Eventually, she wants you and you want her, but that's when you should really use this and say, you know what, we got problems. I know you really like me. Let's sit down with that, what you call it, I talked about, we were talking about some of our problems. Let's, matter of fact, if you bring my son on time, then maybe we could do such and such. You use that to your benefit, but you eventually just lost control and it went all the way down south and that was it. My other fear is that you're in a father's club for the first time. If you mess around, she'll have you in here twice. And if you think you're going through issues, I mean, you come in here complaining about court to your board, after a while, we're not going to want to hear because you got the same girl pregnant 3 times. We're not going to want to hear that you got issues. You got to stop right now and be like, yo, we got issues. Let's try to resolve them. You lost. You spent your time. You lost. You used your power for your son in the wrong way. I think she's starting to believe that you care about your kid because you haven't gone anywhere. So in her mind, that's a good thing. Plus, he's also the father of my son. That's 2 good things. But then neither of you know how to talk to each other. So you got to use it and say, you know what, I ain't putting this here until we sit down and eat. Women do it to us all the time. We can't get nothing until bills are paid. We can't, we can't do such and such. Or women will say, they'll come down in a sexy dress and say, let's talk. Hell yeah, I want to talk. I want to talk. News, politics.
Change course.
I'm ready to listen to your concerns. I'm ready to talk everything. And you can do it the same thing. Listen, I'm such and such. I'm here. I'm a good dad. We need to talk about this. I mean, like you said, we could change some things up. We just have to try to change some things up to get to the positive, which is, as soon as you pick up the phone, there's got to be some type of goal. What's the goal? The goal is, as soon as you hear, the goal in this was, her jack is broken. And your goal needs to be, I need to stay calm after this. I need to be stress-free after this. That might be your immediate goal. I'm tired of yelling and all this. Your goals may be different. So right here, she got a broken jacket, she just want to complain, and she want to accuse you of stuff. So even though I love this brother, the more I get closer to him, the closer I get to him, his body will start physically reacting to defend itself. So specifically male-wise, we're quick to defend ourselves. We don't let anyone take advantage of us. We're quick to defend. And even in conversation, the first thing you do when you accuse me is I'm coming right back. I play football, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. Pass, this is just how we do chess moves, we're coming back. And we lose our control when we start just reacting. What? What? You call my mom, what? We just react. It's on, we just react. But you get into court and they say, you're a horrible person. You be like, well, F you, judge.
That's what I really want to say sometimes.
That's what I said. But then we respond and we say, well, you have the wrong information. You are misinformed about me. I'm different. And she has the wrong information. So you should come back and say, I'm not going to tell you what to say, but you can say, we should definitely check with that daycare center. We should definitely check with that daycare center. And if there is a problem, I don't want my daughter out in the cold. You don't want your daughter out in the cold. So we'll go half on a new jacket.
sound like she
I'm
wants
not
money
giving-
from him.
I'm not giving her no money. They taking it out of my check. That's all.
Well,
That's all you gonna get from
see,
me.
but
Sorry.
again,
When Jacket stay broken,
If Jacket
she
stays
gets
broke,
sick,
she's sick and
fuck,
cold.
she in the hospital.
No, that's not.
I mean, what do you want? What's the goal? What do you want? I didn't say that that's going to exactly happen. I said that if you come back at it that way, it's a lot better than you did it. I'm quite sure we read these emails. Them Jones went on for a while. We don't even have to go that far. Because I'm thinking to myself, if you spent half hour texting her, that was 29 minutes more. You should have been what you're doing.
One long text message. One bunch of
I don't care.
but it should have been just one response. And you don't see where the laundry list is all the unresolved stuff. And you keep wanting a response to the unresolved stuff. And she keeps wanting a response to the unresolved stuff. She says one thing, you say 6 things. You never have any resolution. You didn't even resolve the issue. You still didn't resolve the issue.
Because the jacket's still broke.
The jacket's still broke.
I don't know who did it. You didn't do it. She didn't do it. But yet your daughter's jacket is still broke today. And y'all went back and forth in conversation. Y'all ain't resolved that. And I'm not picking on you. That's for every single guy in here. We've all done it. We've all had a conversation and it's still broke.
And then we'll say, oh, well, you get money from me every month. Do you know what it takes to raise a child that lives with the person?
That ain't nothing, dog.
That couple of dollars.
No. I buy everything.
No, no.
I buy my daughter stays in my mom's house.
Listen, but what I'm saying is that's the response that I just heard come from over here. Well, she's getting money from me. The bottom line on it is that's not even relevant because you always need to focus on what the child needs.
That's what if the daycare center did break it?
Yeah.
Now
You don't even know that.
We could be in our third jacket. Like, hold up. Let me keep somebody at the daycare.
Another child could have wore it out. You don't know what happened, and we still don't know what happened, but we went back and forth with one another.
One of my favorite responses is, what's the problem? Well, I'll tell you. Do you have one? Do you have a favorite with your wife? Do you have one that you see kind of sometimes stops the bad flow?
Well, I mean, it's for me. It's a lot of times silence works for me. Because she'll pick up she'll pick up on the fact that if I didn't respond to it, I'm doing one of two things. I'm thinking about it.
Or you upset.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm looking for an appropriate response, or I'm upset.
Sounds like it.
And the reality of it is that's a good thing, because if she knows that I'm upset about something she said, even if she doesn't take a look at it, she knows she upset me, and she doesn't want to upset me. I don't want to upset her, so I'll get quiet. I'll get quiet, because that's part of me managing my being out of control, because I can be out of control. But I have to understand it's my thinking. If I love her, that means I need to stop first. First thing we need to do is stop before we respond sometimes. And a lot of times we don't do that because we right on it. Well, did she just tell me that I was... What?
You ain't just say that.
I
know
know
you
you.
You didn't say that to me.
My response when she calls for finances is, what can I do to help the situation? Because then that pretty much boxes her in on giving me the information on exactly why she called. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I ask her, well, what is it that I can do to help?
Right.
So then that's like a medium point. And then maybe a couple more words, and then the conversation is over.
Because if you go on and on, I just asked you, what can I do to help? Now you go on and on, I mean, I just ask, I'm willing to help. What can I do to help? And if you start getting the other stuff, then what do?
I just said, what can I do that?
No, well, okay, but you didn't already establish that. What do you do after that? If you've already established, what can I do to help in this situation? And then go on with the laundry list of other unresolved stuff, what do? You
hang up. You keep it moving.
How do you keep it moving? What does keep it moving look like?
Look, I can't talk to you right now, I can't, that right there.
Maybe now is not a good time for us to have this discussion, because I don't want to disrespect you, and I don't want to feel like I'm being disrespected because it sounds like you're angry, and maybe we can talk about it later.
Anyone, you, your son's mom, friction, give me a text. Give me one thing, one sentence from her.
I don't even know. She texted my girl's phone, so I don't even see them. She texted my girl's phone, so I don't even see them.
It got to that point. So it got to that point.
No, she got my old phone, so I don't even like talk to her. My son calls me from his iPod, so I don't even. When she texts her phone now.
So you never talk to her, just your girl talks to her?
Yeah.
Or texts her?
I don't talk to her at all. I'm not allowed, because then they already fought like a couple months ago. So.
Your girlfriend's a medium between you and your child.
Yeah, something like that.
Or something.
Wait, they already fought?
Yeah, they're crazy.
Wow.
So they're going back and forth?
Nah, now they were, but when she like calls or texts, she'll call and text her phone, not my phone.
Does she respond for you?
Yeah.
Alright, how did it used to be then? I mean, give me something that she used to say. I guess evidently you got angry, you got upset.
So.
Because eventually you two are going to have to talk. How? She would say something like...
She just says random, like... Just random shit, like...
Watch your mouth.
Let's see. Let's see.
You got it in a text message, or you wouldn't have it on that phone anyway?
That's not on that phone. He's got to call his girl, and she'll give him.
At first, she'll start like, when you gonna come see your son, and then I'll respond, and then like it'll go to some whole other thing that don't got nothing to do with him, nothing at all.
This is the best message, especially after you've been outside waiting for a while to pick up your own son, and then you get this text message that says where you gonna see your son. This is the best one. And then you said quietly, then I'll respond. Let's get one of your responses.
Mine ain't quiet, but I'll be like, whenever you're gonna let me see him, because then she changed it to like, oh, you can't see him like 5 minutes later.
Trying to get a rise out of me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Say it again.
When you were...
When you gonna let me come see him?
Yeah. Whenever you let me see him.
Whenever you let me see him. Now, again, I want you to look at, here's the question, here's the response. That's how it starts. That you didn't answer the question.
Oh, okay.
We don't never answer the question. Because, like Joel said, automatic defense kicks right in. Because when you don't look at the person objectively, this is what happens. You go, now, where's the response relevant to the question? Follow me? So you're not the only one to do it. This is general. You just had somebody else, the same thing. You went somewhere else because in your mind, well, you know, there's always something back and forth with you, so when you going to let me see it? When, answer the question. See, you have to start moving towards solution. When will you come see your son? I'll come see him tomorrow after work at 4 o'clock. How's that? You answered the question.
But then when it comes down to that, like, she wants me to go to her house.
But it's okay. But the first thing we have to start doing is we have to start responding to what's said. When we start discounting somebody else's efforts, when we say that person's doing this and that person's doing that, the first thing we have to do is look at our own responses. Are my responses an attempt to move towards resolution or to continue the conflict? And I feel you on what comes afterwards. But we can't project. We know the person. We're familiar with the person's behaviors.
No, and then it's not even her, it's her new boyfriend on top of that. Like,
Okay.
I'll go to the house and then he always have something smart to say.
Okay. But again, that's another set of issues. She asked the question, you want to answer the question. Right? We want to focus on answering the question because whatever comes after that, we respond to that. We respond to that because that circumstance, that's what happens, then that's another question you have to answer. But we're not even answering the initial question. So we really can't determine whether that person's actually moving forward or not, because we move a person forward. Let me read off here. One of the most important understandings and skills in one's spiritual path is the ability to resolve conflicts within yourself and your relationships. It is of the highest importance to resolve conflicts within self as quickly as possible. This is necessary to remain in a state of personal power, self-control, and purposefulness. When you are reacting to somebody else's condition, you are now them. You are not using your condition to confront the circumstance. You're acting like them. You're no different than them. You follow me? Now you are letting them take the lead. How many fight fans we have in here? What's the worst thing that a fighter can do when they get into the ring with their opponent?
Try to mimic them.
Put your guard down. Put your guard down.
Underestimate them.
Allow them to dictate the pace. That's the worst thing you can do. You allow them to dictate the pace and they take you out of your plan. So if you have a person who's pressing you, and they got a fast pace, like a Pacquiao kind of pace, and then you start trying to bounce around like them and what happened? That's not your pace. That's not your pace. And you allow them to dictate and you lose. You're lost. Right from the door when you change their pace because you allow them to dictate. It's the same thing. You lost your power when you allowed that person to dictate the course of the conversation. The conversation going south, it ain't working. Gotta go. And you don't have to slam the phone down. Listen, it's not going anywhere. We're going to talk later, okay? Talk to you later. Bye. Hang it up. You don't have to bang on them. You don't have to do none of that. You dictate the conversation in that manner. I don't speak to you in that manner. I'm saying this. I don't speak to you in that manner. I'm not going to allow you to speak to me in that manner. And if that's what your intent is to have a better conversation, is it going to go anywhere if you argue back and forth? Absolutely not.
And just to add to what you're saying, like I said, I've been working on some things myself in reference to responding with my wife. It seems like to me, since I've been learning peace, things like that, it's more or less now she's the aggressor, whereas though I was the aggressor before. Like when I say, what can I do to help? And then she'll give a response. And then I'll say, well, I'll do whatever I can, to support whatever that financial decision is. And then she calls back again 5 minutes later, what can you do more? And I'll give her the same response again. Whereas though before, it'll be, what you trying to do? What I look like, a walking ATM? You know what I'm saying? I'll say something like that, and then it'll escalate to something else. Whereas though now, I'm learning how to be a little bit more cool with it. You know what I'm saying? A little bit more refined, a little bit more relaxed. And I'm learning that it's working. Because whereas though before we wasn't talking about anything, now we're at least starting from somewhere.
And remember, you condition her to be aggressive. Remember that. Our partners who we're with, we condition them. We influence them, just like they influence us.
They weren't like that when we met them. That's right.
The same way we influence them, they influence us. So when we start changing, and they're still stuck in that mode of that condition that you put upon me, you be like, well, what's wrong with you? And now you're seeing the influence that you have now, being in this spiritual condition, taking another path, and now you're beginning to refine that relationship. My last question, because we're going to wrap up. And I'm going to come back next Tuesday. because we got a lot of work to do with this. I'm off from my other classes for a couple of weeks, so we're going to do some more work in this. The last thing I'm going to say to you is this. When you come back next week, next Tuesday, I want each one of you to come back and tell us what is the foundation of your resolve. You must have a foundation. You must have a go-to point when you're seeking to resolve conflict. And it's not up here in the Terror Dome. You have to have the foundation with things. And it's not down here either.
Could you repeat that again? What is the foundation of your resolution?
What is the foundation of your resolve towards conflict?
Exactly.
All resolve. For instance, for me, it's the Quran. For you, you have to figure out what it is. I have a go-to point. If my life is disruptive, if I'm in disarray, I go to the Quran. And that helps me to bring resolve to my conflict. I can't go to Joel and rely upon Joel because I don't really fully know Joel's condition. I can talk to him.
I resolve at the strip.
You see, that's the problem. He want to get on the pole. My foundation, what is the foundation towards resolve of conflict? Be it internal or external conflict. When you are faced with conflict, where do you go for resolve?
What's your outlet? Some people have outlets. What do you do instead?
We'll bring it back next week. Because you need to be able to tell us next week what it is that you do.
This is homework also. I need this filled out and brought back. It says, dear son or daughter, I would like to give you blank. It's a letter to your son, to your daughter. Some of you need more than one. Dear son or daughter, I dream you would be blank. As your father, I will
be with you until death.
Put it all out. Don't be cheating already. Almost a contract, a letter of recognition. And the last one is, I would like you to thank me by being